Hey everybody, it's Scott Shetler from Extreme Performance Training Systems in Atlanta, Georgia, and welcome to this week's episode of Strength and Health TV. For this week's episode, I want to talk a little bit about my own personal training. I've had some questions come in from email and some private messages asking me about how I train and some of the different things that I do. I know I've talked a little bit in the past about how some of the things that we've done with some of the athletes and some of the clients that I've worked with in here, as well as some of my thoughts on training in general. But this week I'm going to talk just a little bit about the training that I do, what I do, why I do it. So I actually do quite a bit of training. I'm not really a competitive athlete training for anything in particular. I did compete in powerlifting about 8 or 9 years ago, and I was pretty serious about it. And I've recently gotten back into it over about the last year and a half, 2 years now, but not at the same level, much more at the hobbyist or recreational level, if you want to call it that. I'm certainly not in a position to go to the extremes that I did in the past regarding, crazy diets and just putting on as much body mass as I could and whatnot. I've actually, over the last few years, shifted my focus more onto overall health and just kind of well-being, but I don't want to do that at the expense of strength at all. So I'll talk a little bit about how I train personally and kind of the why I do what I do. Over about the last 4 years now, I've really gotten into Chinese martial arts, in particular the internal martial art of Taijiquan. I study with my teacher about 3 days a week for about 2 hours a session. And that is really my main focus. That, as well as just different practices to help develop more optimal health. One of the biggest changes that I've gone through, and I talked about this in a previous episode, is just my approach to nutrition in general has taken on a much more healthy approach to diet and nutrition than I did in the past, particularly when I was competing in powerlifting, where I was just basically eating as much as I could of whatever I could. If you've watched some of my episodes in the past, I'm a big proponent of a 100% plant-based diet. I've been vegan now for about 3 years and vegetarian for a little over 5 years. So it's definitely started out more from an ethical standpoint. I'm a big supporter of animal rights and welfare, and I can't say that the health benefits can be denied. I experienced a huge turnaround in my health. I lost almost 50 pounds. My blood work when I went in for my physical was perfect across the board. My doctor was blown away, especially when he found out that I had been eating a plant-based diet. So the health benefits from switching to this type of nutrition program have been just extraordinary for me. I'll just talk briefly about my diet, then get into the training. I don't kind of want to bore you and talk about diet and nutrition and be like a foodie or anything like that. But I do, contrary to what a lot of my powerlifting friends might say, I do actually follow a very healthy nutrition plan. I eat a large amount of fresh raw produce. That's really what I build the bulk of my daily nutrition out of. I'm not in the kitchen all day, every day, whipping up crazy recipes. I'm very simplistic when it comes to food. I generally start out in the morning. I drink a big glass of water, usually 16 to 32 ounces. Sometimes I'll squeeze some fresh lemon or lime into it. I usually have some kombucha in the morning. And then I drink a green smoothie. Typically, I'll put about 2 cups of water into my Vitamix. I'll throw in a couple different fruits, usually a lot of berries, strawberries, mixed berries, and things like that, and usually a banana. And then I usually just take about 3 or 4 or 5 fistfuls of greens. I use a lot of spinach, kale, Swiss chard, dandelion greens, collard greens are some of the biggest staples, that I use as far as the greens go. I think greens are probably one of the best things that we can consume. They're very nutrient dense. So I definitely notice a difference when I'm eating a lot of greens and when I'm not eating a lot of greens. So I put a lot of greens into that smoothie, blend it up, drink it down. I also throw in some raw hemp seeds and some ground up flax seeds, some flax meal as well. So that's usually my breakfast, and then big fan of caffeine, so I usually have an iced coffee on the drive into the gym, get to work, and then throughout the morning I basically just snack on raw fruit. I usually eat about 3, 4, 5 pieces of fruit throughout the morning, eat a ton of fruit. I know, it's sugar, it's totally bad for you, it's going to give me diabetes and kill me, right? It's a bunch of bullshit. Fruit's really good for you. And I eat a lot of it, especially throughout the morning because it's easy. I usually have a lot of appointments. I can grab an apple. I usually have some grapefruit or an orange or some type of citrus, maybe another banana or two, pear, just whatever is fresh and in season, some mixed berries or whatever. And I kind of snack on that throughout the morning. One of my favorite things to eat right before I go to my martial art training, which is usually about from 11:30 until about 1:30 every day, or on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. One of my favorite things to eat is, and I actually wrote about this on a guest blog post at Ellen Major's website, sexyfitvegan.com. I got this recipe from my friend Matt Resigno, and basically I mash up some bananas, usually 2, 3, maybe 4 bananas. I dice up an apple, throw it in there, and take a tablespoon or 2 of peanut butter, and then mix it all up, raw almond butter, and I just mix it all up. I bring that to work, and I usually eat that about a half hour before I leave for my martial art class, and that gives me a lot of sustained energy, and it's not super heavy. It digests pretty well, and I don't feel like, with a heavy stomach or anything when I go into training. So that's pretty cool. It's a nice pre-training meal. So usually, like I said, after a green smoothie, it's all fresh raw fruit throughout the morning. Sometimes I'll grab a handful of nuts or seeds or whatever as well. Then I usually have that banana, apple, nut butter mixture before I go train. Then on the way back from Tai Chi, I usually do my strength training in the afternoon. Sometimes I'll eat either like a Cliff Bar if I'm in a hurry, or I'll have a bowl of oatmeal or some other, I'm a big fan of Rip's Big Bowl Engine 2 cereal. I might use some of that. So I might eat that before training just to get something a little bit more calorically dense into my stomach. Then I go lift. Usually after my heavy strength training, I usually do some sort of plant-based protein powder mixed up with almond milk. I use whatever supplements I'm going to use post-workout, whether it's BCAAs or creatine, whatever is all mixed into there. Big fan of Vega, big fan of Plant Fusion, Warrior Force, all great proteins. So usually have a serving of plant-based protein mixed up with some almond milk, and that'll be my post-workout recovery drink. And then after that, I usually eat some more fresh fruit, maybe some more nuts and seeds. And then for dinner, it's usually something very simple in here. I might bring some rice and beans or lentils, some beans and greens, something like that. If I prepare something and bring it in, I often go to staple of mine is peanut butter sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on Ezekiel bread. I keep a lot of that in the gym so I can make it up really quick because, again, usually I have a lot of appointments through the afternoon and evening, so I like to make something really, really fast. Then usually when I get home, I have another green smoothie just like I did in the morning. Like I said, about 3, 4, 5 big handfuls of mixed greens, a couple servings of fruit. Love mixed berries in my green smoothies, and usually a banana, and then I'll throw in some hemp seeds and some flax meal. Now, as far as the junk food, because I don't eat totally clean all the time, I'm a big fan of Oreos. I'm a big fan of Daiya cheesecake. This stuff's amazing. So I'm not 100% clean all the time, but I'm also not one of those IIFYM types. If I'm going to eat some junk food, I'm going to eat a little bit of junk food, and then I'm going to move on. So contrary to what a lot of people may think, I do eat really healthy most of the time, and I definitely notice a big difference, like I said, when I'm throwing in a lot of greens into my daily nutrition intake. So that's just kind of a snapshot and overview of what I eat on a daily basis. Of course, it might change if I go out to eat or whatnot. There's a couple great vegan restaurants in the Atlanta area I like to go to. Big plug for Avocado Vegan Cafe and Juice Bar, owned by my friend Godfrey Lewis. Great place to eat if you're ever in the Atlanta area. We got Soul Veg, Cafe Sunflower. There's a lot of great places down here to eat. So I try to go out and eat periodically as well, but generally that's what I do on a daily basis. Not a big supplement guy. I do take, I'm a big fan of Mike Muller's Aggressive Strength line. I am using his Aggressive Strength Testosterone Booster as well as his Restorazyme Systemic Enzyme Blend. I do take a B12 every day. Like I said, I usually use some creatine every day, usually a 5-gram serving post-workout on training days, on non-training days, just whenever I can get it in. And definitely do some minerals like zinc, magnesium, and stuff like that. But pretty simple when it comes to supplements. I rely on mostly clean, fresh, whole plant-based foods, and then I do throw in some things here and there that I might feel have some type of performance benefit. So that's kind of an overview of how I eat. I do drink a lot of water, and I drink hot tea and iced tea in addition to a little bit of coffee every day, and that's really about all I consume from a liquid standpoint. So moving on to training, as I mentioned, I study the internal martial art of Taijiquan. Usually train about 6 hours a week with my teacher in an organized class. Then I do practice on my own whenever I can. About 5 days a week, I do a lot of intensive qigong training, and I usually finish my qigong with some meditation and this self-massage that I do. I started out using one of these bamboo brushes. It's just a series of hitting your body to help stimulate blood flow and stuff like that, and help condition the muscles. Then after about 9 to 12 months of training with the bamboo brush, I moved on to the iron brush, and I'll use that usually after a qigong training session. I find it's a great way to just kind of help the muscles relax. It's a good type of vibration massage throughout the body. It's easy to do and it only takes about 10 minutes. So again, usually do some qigong, intensive qigong practice about 5 days a week, usually in the morning, followed by the brush massage and meditation. Training, formal Tai Chi classes usually about 6 hours a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 hours a day. And then as far as strength training goes, this is what I really wanted to focus on with this episode. I do 4 main workouts a week. If you're familiar with the West Side Barbell system, the way that I train is based off that system. I have 2 heavy days, one for the upper body, one for the lower body. Then I have 2 dynamic effort or speed days, one for the upper body, one for the lower body. My heavy or my max effort lower body day is usually going to focus on some type of squat, deadlift, or good morning variation, where I work up to a max, and that is usually on Mondays. Then I follow that up with work for the lower back, the glutes, the hamstrings, as well as the abs. On Tuesdays, I do my max effort upper body work, which is going to be some type of bench press variation where I usually work up to a max. Then I follow it up with a lot of work for the triceps, the upper and lower back, the delts, and then maybe even some biceps. Then the dynamic effort lower body day is usually going to be Thursday for me. That's where I'm going to do my box squats for about 10 to 12 sets of 2, working between 50 and 60% of my 1 rep max. And I usually use some form of accommodating resistance, whether it's attaching heavy bands to the bar or chains to the bar. Then I usually do some speed deadlifts that day as well, again working between 50 and 60% with some type of accommodating resistance in the form of bands or chains attached to the bar, usually for 6 to 10 singles following the box squats. After those, I usually work reverse hypers a lot, lower back work, posterior chain work, and then abs to finish up the workout. And then my dynamic effort workout for the upper body is on Friday. That's usually the bench press for 9 sets of 3, somewhere about 40 to 50% of my 1 rep max, with bands or chains attached to the bar, some accommodating resistance there. And then I usually move on, just like on the max effort day, I usually move on to the triceps, the upper and the mid back, and then the delts and biceps to finish up. So those are my heavy strength workouts. Again, those are done on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And then on the lower body days, I do a little bit of upper body extra work. I do a lot of band push downs. I do a lot of pull aparts, face pulls, a little bit of extra work for the upper back just to keep some balance in my shoulders, because I do a lot of pressing movements. And that just helps to keep my shoulders healthy and my elbows healthy with doing the high repetition push downs with the bands. I do a lot of restoration work with Indian clubs. So I do a lot of light club spinning and swinging for the shoulders, the elbows, and the wrists. And I do a lot of heavy Indian club work with my favorite adjustable ADEX club that my friend Don developed. ADEX adjustable exercise club. Do a lot of restoration work with that, in addition to the lighter Indian clubs. On the upper body days, I usually do some extra lower body work. Usually do some extra reverse hypers. I put some ankle weights on and I'll do some leg curls. I'll do some leg curls against bands. I do some good mornings with bands where I stand on the band and put the band around my neck. And I usually do some extra abdominal work on those days. And then I also do a lot of, I talked a little bit about the restoration work with the Indian clubs, but I do a lot of stretching, a lot of mobility. With studying Taijiquan, especially I'm doing a lot of work with the Chen style forms right now, and those forms require a lot of really deep squatting and explosive movements, so I do a lot of work for flexibility and mobility, particularly with my hips, my knees, my lower body and such. So I do a lot of restoration work in that regard as well. So this usually ends up working out to be about 4 heavy strength training sessions and then 4 light strength training sessions a week, about 3 2-hour sessions of Tai Chi, formal Tai Chi practice, and then I usually work on the forms and stuff on my own as much as possible. About 5 really intensive qigong sessions, followed by meditation, and then the iron brush massage, and then lots of stretching and mobility throughout the week. So it ends up being a lot of training, and I just kind of fit it in wherever I can throughout the week. But I feel great when coupled with a really healthy plant-based diet. My strength is getting better. I'm building a lot of lean tissue. I'm leaner than I've ever been. And overall, I just feel a lot better. I turned 40 this year, and I find that this type of training, this type of balance has really brought in, not only can I continue working and developing strength, but my mobility, my flexibility is getting better. My energy levels are really good. And focusing a lot on the restoration and mobility work, I find, is keeping me a lot healthier in regard to my joints and my flexibility, which helps my recovery from training, and again, just overall feeling a lot better. So that's just kind of an overview of my training. In addition to the heavy, strength work, I do a little bit. I don't do any like prescribed cardiovascular training, but I do a lot of low intensity cardio work. I actually do have a couple pieces of cardio in my gym, a couple different bikes and such. I might use that a little bit, where I focus on a specific heart rate for maybe 30 to 45 minutes at a time, usually between about 130 and 150 beats a minute. I try to maintain that. Some people refer to that as cardiac development work. I'm not really going to get into the science of why that type of training is important, but it is. If you look online, especially the work by Joel Jamieson, he preaches a lot about the benefits of cardiac development work, in addition to many other types of energy systems training modalities. But I do that periodically. I do work in a lot of general physical preparation work. I do a lot of sled dragging, usually about 3 or 4 days a week after my heavy workouts. I do some very heavy sled dragging for short distances, and I do some lighter sled dragging for longer distances. I walk with the sled forward, backwards. I do some upper body work where I put the upper body strap on and do some pressing or some tricep extensions. I turn around and walk backwards. I do some rowing, some bicep curls, things like that. I find that helps a lot with recovery from some of the heavier workouts as well. So again, that's just kind of an overview of my training, why I do it. I don't really have a goal that I'm training for. Really, I guess you could say I'm just training for life. I want to continue to get strong, but I do want to focus on holistic development. I don't think, this is kind of piggybacking last week's episode where I talked about the book, The Way to Live in Health and Physical Fitness by George Hackenschmidt. I don't think that there's any benefit to just being solely focused on one area. I think for us that it's important to focus on total human development. So I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of personal education. I try to be, as involved as I can on that end. So I believe that we should not only focus on developing the mind, but the body and the spirit as well. And that's why I try to focus on multiple disciplines. I do heavy strength training, restorative work for the physical body. I practice internal martial arts and meditation. And I really try to bring a more well-rounded, holistic approach to my personal development. I don't think that we're here to just be totally intellectual, and I don't think that we're here to be totally physical. I think to totally develop as a human being, we have to develop all aspects of ourselves. So, like I said, it kind of piggybacks on what I was talking about with George Hackenschmidt's book last week. So if you saw that episode, that can kind of give you a little bit of a background into why I train the way that I do. Now, I have dabbled a little bit in powerlifting competition over the last couple of years. I'm just a big fan of the sport. I coach some lifters. I really enjoy that atmosphere. So I have done a few meets over the last year and a half or so where I've just participated in the deadlift. But now that my shoulders are starting to get healthy again, it's not to say that I might not do some full meets down the road. Again, my main focus right now is coaching my lifters and my athletes, but my lifting is going pretty good. So maybe I will get back out on the platform and do some full meets, but my main focus right now with my personal strength development is the deadlift. So I'll definitely do some more deadlift meets down the road. Again, just more as a personal challenge. I'm not focused on being like the supreme powerlifting world champion or anything like that, but I'm a huge fan of the sport. Massive props to those people that go into it. They're the strongest human beings on the planet. I love seeing these people lift. I love seeing the records broken. I think it's an awesome sport and an awesome environment. Love going to meets. So that's why I am focused on coaching my lifters and athletes. But I will get out on the platform a little bit myself just to challenge myself and really to help push my deadlift up. But like I said, the squat and bench is coming along pretty well now that my shoulders are healthy and I'm able to train without pain. So maybe I will get back into doing some full meets down the road. I can't really say at this point in time, but definitely do some deadlift meets down the road, just because it's a lot of fun and I enjoy the personal challenge. So again, that's kind of a overview of my training. I'll probably put some maybe a training outline or something in the notes of this video, or maybe in the corresponding blog on my website at scottshetler.com. But just mainly wanted to focus this episode on my own personal training and what I do for myself on a daily basis. So one, I am in the gym doing stuff too, and I'm not just telling people to do it, but I have had some questions about how I train. So I just wanted to give a nice overview. I didn't want to get into anything too specific because my training does change a lot. I do rotate my max effort exercises I focus on. I do rotate my accessory work. I don't really have a set plan. I just try to train everything as hard as I can. I rotate exercises quite a bit, focused on special strengths development on the heavy training, and then like I said, I do a lot of restoration work. I found, especially as I've gotten older, now that I'm 40 and getting into that new decade, I find that more restoration activity, more stretching, more mobility, more relaxation type stuff is really in the cards. As we get older, our ability to recover isn't what it used to be, so we often have to do extra work to keep us in that trainable state. So, hope you enjoyed this week's episode, taking an inside look at kind of how my training goes. If you've got any specific questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Like I said, I'll probably put some links in the notes to maybe a blog that outlines my training if you want to see it a little bit more in depth. And until next week, stay strong and stay healthy.